next good 45 minutes here in an actual live software demonstration. So let me go ahead and open up the user within the system that I want to talk about, but let me set the stage a little bit about what we're going to look at within that demonstration. So first of all, as a reminder, this is an overview demo, right? We're going to cover supply chain and professional services. It's going to be about 45 minutes. It's really not designed for either one particular business or specifically to give you it's designed specifically to give you just a flavor of the product. But that being said, you will see an awful lot of detail within the product. We're going to go through quite a number of different processes within the demonstration. But what we're going to focus on is having T. We always like our three-letter acronyms. Our company is actually a three-letter acronym. And you'll see that T stands for transparency, where we're going to show you how you can get access to information. Efficiency, where once you get that access to the information, how do you make your day-to-day task easier? How do you use it? And then adaptability. How do you take a software like this, make it yours, configure the system to your needs, and then, most importantly, get people up to speed so they're actually using it? All right? So we're going to try to focus on that as we go through the presentation. So the person who's going to take us through the demonstration is this gentleman, Bob. Bob is the sales manager. He looks very happy because it is a gorgeous day here in Philadelphia with a big smile on his face. And what Bob is going to do is he's going to take us through kind of a day in the life of Bob. So he's going to go in, he's going to take a look at the tasks that he needs to do for the day. He's going to take a look at some reports, understand a little bit about his business, understand a little bit about his customers, and then actually pick up a lead and go through a process of lead, opportunity, quote, and order. Again, we're going to go through a couple processes here. We'll pick this one just because it's really common across a lot of different industries. So it'll give you a good flavor on how you interact with the Business by Design solution. The next thing that Bob is going to do, his company actually works from a supply chain or manufacturing distribution area. So if he has a product in stock, we'll discuss how he could just certainly deliver that and invoice the customer. But the process that we're going to look at a little bit more closely is when the product is not in stock. We're going to have somebody in his organization, not necessarily Bob, the sales manager, but we're going to have somebody in his organization kick off a planning run based on the order that was put into the system that's going to need to be produced and purchased, and all of the steps that take place in actually putting that in. And then once that would be completed, being able to deliver an invoice to the customer. And then his company also does professional services, so Bob's going to take you into one of his projects and show you kind of how we manage that project from really from the contract of that project all the way out to invoicing that customer. So Bob has logged into the system. So what you're seeing on your screen right now, hopefully, is ByDesign. You can see his name in the upper right-hand corner. And why is it important for me to point out that this is Bob logging into the system? Because ByDesign is a role-based system. So that means as a sales manager, the type of information and the type of tasks or functions that he needs to do are based on his role as a sales manager or who he is as he logs in. So the first thing that it does, as you can see across the top, it puts these what we call work centers or functional areas within ByDesign. And you'll notice that they are very specific to what a sales manager would like to see. So you're seeing things like marketing, new business, his sales orders. He does do some project information because he's going to show you that later. So he's got access to all of the areas that he needs to see. Now, if somebody from finance logged in, they wouldn't see new business. They wouldn't see marketing. They'd be going in and taking a look at their accounts receivable, their accounts payable, their journal entries, their general ledger, etc. So you get the idea. Based on who you are, based on how you log in, it really configures the system to that role. Now, the other thing that it's done based on who he is as he logged in is he's presented the information to him. So you can see in this kind of graphical dashboard here that he's got some reports that a sales manager would like to see, things like sales order volume and his opportunity pipeline, and he's got profit analysis and his profit overview by the different products that he sells, lead funnel, payment statistics, etc. How did that information get out here? Well, this is not an IT job to do this. Bob could go in and really personalize his screen to exactly how he wants to see it. If you guys have ever used like My Yahoo, where you go out and you decide what web pages you want to see and how you want it to present the information back to you, it's exactly what you're doing here with ByDesign. You're able to personalize. So Bob went in and made the decision himself on what he wanted to see on his dashboard. He wanted to see sales order volume, he wanted to see opportunity pipeline, he wanted to see them as a graph. Maybe he wants to be able to quickly change those from a graph to a table, so he can actually save different views and personalize his views of the information. So now he's just taken that same opportunity pipeline, laid it out by product, put it into a tabular view, so now he can see the dollar amounts again right on his main screen. The other piece of information about the data that you're seeing is that it is real time. We don't work off of a data warehouse, which means you don't have to wait till the end of the week for the information to get updated. We do store this off of transactional information, so it can be refreshed as often as you like and be as real-time as you like within the system. And that also allows you to drill into the data and get additional information. So Bob has gone into the profit overview report here, and he said, you know what, I want to be able to slice and dice this report and get some better views of this data. So what it has done is it's opened up into this kind of query view within ByDesign that has allowed him to not only see the data that we saw on the front screen, but if you look over on the left-hand side, you can see all of the different attributes that Bob can now add to this data to start slicing and dicing and get the information that he needs from here. So kind of scroll down here, nice and slow for dramatic effect, but look at all the different attributes that he has over here. So how would a salesperson like to see his information? Well, maybe they want to see it by sales unit. If he has multiple sales offices, maybe he wants to see it by region. Financial people always like to see things by profit center or by cost center or by GL account. Everybody likes to see it by customers. Let's go ahead and personalize this report for Bob. So he's going to come over and say, I want to grab customer. I want to move that out to the rows of the report. This is also very drag and drop. He could have dragged it up to where it says rows. And now it has repainted this report, and it's now showing him not only the products and product categories that he's selling, but he's showing it by customer as well. So you can start to get the idea. Even though this is a standard, I'm doing air quotes, you guys can't see it, so I'm doing air quotes right now, standard report within ByDesign, you can take that standard report, and as an end user, as Bob, he can go in and really customize or configure that report to be exactly how he wants to look at the information. He could then go in, set it as his default, save it as his view, put his variables into that report, and really make it his own report so that the next time he comes out to take a look at this information, it's laid out exactly how he wants to see it. So even though it was a standard report, you can really start to see the power of the reporting within ByDesign of really letting you take those and consider them and get to the information that you need to run your business. Now, the next thing he does, Bob really likes Excel. Don't we all? Excel is a very powerful tool that we all have great skills in, so he's going to go ahead and export this out to Microsoft Excel. But what ByDesign does is instead of just throwing it up to Excel and then you lose the link to the real-time data and the Excel report, as soon as it hits and you're not updating the data, it becomes kind of an obsolete report or just a snapshot in time. What we do with ByDesign is we give you this Business ByDesign Excel add-in. And what that does is now that he's got the report out here, at any point in time, if he wants to refresh the data within Excel, he can simply log on to Business ByDesign from Excel, refresh this information, and he'd have up-to-the-minute information in this report. So if you think about the power there, Bob likes to push things out to Excel. Maybe he does a macro on those, puts them into a pivot table to see more information. He combines a couple tables within other reports, and then he does a little calculation because the way he calculates his commissions for his salespeople involves how much money they spent on lunch that day as well, and so he can do his own custom calculation, and then at any point in time when he wants to go find out how much money he owes those salespeople, he can go log on and refresh the screen, and he's got up-to-the-minute information. So it takes that concept of that powerful report within ByDesign and really expands it with the use of Excel and the ByDesign Excel add-in. So Bob's simply going to come back out to a good understanding of his reporting, how he can slice and dice, how he can really personalize his own screen to see the information. But now Bob needs to start focusing on what he needs to do in his little day-in-the-life scenario. So the first thing you see is right up here, he's got some quick links or work lists, again, that he can configure to be real quick ways of navigating through the system. And he can see he's got a task. Tasks within the system can be system-generated. So maybe a salesperson has put in a quote that didn't have a high enough margin, and it kicks over a task for Bob to approve that. Or it can be questions, it can be notifications, it can be clarifications. In this case, this task is an actual manual task from one of his salespeople, Kate. And it's a customer invoice question. So he very quickly looks down at the bottom. You can see that Kate has sent him a note saying this customer called about their invoice, and can you give him a call? So Bob says, I can give them a call, but nobody ever calls me because they're happy about their invoice. So maybe I want to find out a little bit more about this customer. So right from this task, he doesn't have to go out, he doesn't have to call Kate. He can click right on that task, and it's going to take him directly to the document in question. So here's that invoice. He can see that it's Silver Star Wholesale Corporation is the customer. He can see what they bought. They bought 10 control regulation units at $100. So he's starting to get more and more information about this transaction. But he wants to see all of the details. He's going to go into what we call the document flow. And this is going to be something that you see a couple times throughout our demonstration here. The document flow is showing all of the transaction history on this document. So literally what's happened at every step of the way, and tied them all together in this nice graphical representation. Now he's seeing the invoice, but he could very quickly go back and see the delivery when we actually pull it out of stock and send it to the customer, or what the original order was. All of these are linked with these blue things. Anytime you see blue number or blue name or blue information, that is a link. You can actually link back to that transaction. So first of all, he's going to say, well, maybe this customer is not happy because they sent us a check and we missed that check and have not deposited it yet. Because I know a lot of companies are concerned about cash flow, and if they have open checks out there, they are kind of checking on to make sure why it hasn't been cashed at this point in time. So here you can very quickly see the incoming check that was associated with the invoice, and even the check deposit. So when did they put it in the bank? So he knows that they've accepted the check. They know they've put it in the bank, so he's going to go back through this process, and he's going to go ahead and what I'm doing here is anchoring. Very clever of us. We put a picture of an anchor and we call it anchoring, but we're basically changing the view of this document flow. So now he's anchored on the sales order, so he can go back and see all of the steps that have led up to the sales order. So now he's seeing the original proposal or quote that went out to the customer. He can see the opportunity. So what was the salesperson thinking or doing while they were actually tracking this and turning them into a customer. And then even the original lead that we got from the system. Going even further back, I'm going to anchor on lead, and now you can see where that lead came from. So we can see that the lead was generated from a phone call. He may even say, well, how did we first start dealing with this customer? So he's going to go ahead and anchor on the phone call, and now it's taking him all the way back to the campaign that was targeted to that customer, that they called about, that turned into a lead, that the salesperson tracked on, that went into the sales proposal, and all the way through the process. So I know you guys are out there just saying ooh and ah right now, right? So I'm going to go ahead and zoom out a little bit, because I want you guys to get the full effect of what we were able to do within ByDesign. Now I know you can't read them all, because I went through them individually here. I'm just going to scroll out so you can see the entire picture on one screen. On the left-hand side was the campaign, the first time that we targeted that customer, all the way through those processes to selling the product, down to the delivery, to the invoice, all the way out to the deposit of the check in the bank, in one view. So pretty powerful for Bob to know everything that has taken place with this customer for this particular transaction. And again, that is something that you will find all the way through ByDesign. And we'll see it on the project side again. We'll see it a number of times within the system. So Bob is going to take a look at this, and he's going to say, that's a lot of information. I also maybe want to see the original sales order. So I mentioned that anytime it's blue, you can drill down on it. So he's going to go ahead and drill on that sales order. And he's going to get a quick sales order overview. So when did they order it? What were they looking for? Are there any notes from the salesperson on that? He can also go back to the customer itself. So far, Bob has gotten a good understanding of this customer for this transaction, but he wants to know more about this customer in general. So he goes into what's called the corporate account overview, a 360-degree view for this customer. It's got all of the information that he would want to know, including the contacts, who's responsible for selling them internally, the activities, there's full CRM tracking of appointments and activity tasks, emails they sent, phone calls within the system, all in one place. Going across the tabs on the top, he can see all of their sales information, including their opportunities that we're working on, sales quotes that you have in the system, any product that they may have returned, their sales orders, leads, campaigns, target groups, and then a full sales history at the bottom showing all of their sales orders, sales quotes, what they bought, when they bought it, and how much did they buy it for. Again, all with the blue links, but if he wanted to go back and see the detail, he's able to do it. He can see the service aspect for this customer. So maybe they're calling because they're having problems with that product. We can go out and see all the service requests that he has in the system for this customer based on a service desk functionality. It's got all of the things like knowledge base built in. You can go out and do searches on that, try to do level 1 fixing of the problem before they actually send it out as a service order over here to the field service personnel, but we're tracking all of that information. You can also get a quick snapshot of what are called registered products, our installed base. This is the actual product ID, whether you call it asset tag, whether you call it installed base product, whether you call it the serial number that's on the back of the unit when they have logged that and registered as having that unit. So now when they call, they're able to pull up this registered product ID, and we know exactly when we sold it to them, when they have it, it's under warranty, etc. And then finally, under financials, he's able to see all the invoices and credit memos and payments and anything else that are within the system for this customer. Now, if he was in his financials, he'd also be able to see their account balance, he'd be able to see any payments, etc. within the system. All right, so Bob has gotten a lot of information now about this customer. One last thing, wants to know exactly where they're located, so he's going to go into what's called a web service or a mashup within ByDesign, and that will go out. It'll take the address of the customer, it'll pull up Google Maps, and it'll plot them right onto the Google Map. So if he needed to do quick directions to go find that customer, he could do that very, very quickly. Now, these web services and mashups, you'll see me use them a few times. That is the ability to configure, again, not customize, configure, no coding needed, the screens to be able to go out and, say, pull in information from the web. I'm going to use them a few times to show processes that I've actually embedded into dashboards a little bit later using these mashups. It just really opens up the functionality and the configuration capability within the system. And then if he wanted to, he could go right out here, create that new phone call, and give them a call and say, okay, what was that question about the invoice? And he is very well prepared for anything that they might throw at him. At least we hope he is. So what's Bob going to take a look at now? So far we've gone through kind of his early day in the life. He was able to go in and get his reports and take a look at some of his key figures and look at his dashboard, and he had his tasks that he had to do for the day. But now he wants to take you through a process itself. If you guys remember from the PowerPoint slide, that process that we're going to go through, let me actually scroll down. And what I've done is use that mashup technology really just to embed that process right into the screen that I'm going to show you. So here is the day in the life that we're going to go through. We're going to see him take a lead. We're going to accept that lead, turn it into an opportunity, work that through a quote, and right into an order. And we'll be able to see Bob build that document flow as he goes through that process. So to do that, he wants to go out and see what leads that he has available to him. He opens this up, and we have a concept of being able to hand over leads. So marketing has done their job. They've done the phone calls. They've done the marketing campaigns. And once they have those leads, they're able to hand those over. Bob then has a choice where he can either accept or reject it. A nice feature to allow them to know very quickly whether they're doing a good job on their turning over of leads, so they can do reason statuses on accepting those or rejecting those, and they can get some nice reporting out of there to see why they are accepting or rejecting leads within the system and kind of know a better way to do their marketing. So he just wants to see now his accepted leads and start working it. So right here at the top is that lead we just accepted. He wants to go ahead and do what's called a follow-up within the system. So the lead came in, he got the information, maybe he gave him a phone call, we tracked that phone call, and he says, okay, they're good enough, they're qualified enough, and he wants to create an opportunity. So the button I'm going to use quite a bit here from now on is this follow-up. And this is kind of your primary way of navigating through the customer relationship management or CRM within the system. And he's going to do the follow-up opportunity, which is the next step in the process. So now he's going to go ahead and say follow-up opportunity. The system knows all the information from a lead already. It knows for Silver Star Wholesale. There's the description that came in, that is for Bob Menson, etc. He can now start tracking it through the pipeline. We have the ability of doing a pipeline, multiple different types of sales cycles. So maybe you have the way you handle opportunities is different for a web-based product versus your distribution product versus a manufacturing product versus whatever it might be. You have multiple sales cycles, and under each of those cycles, you can have multiple sales phases. What are the steps that your sales people are going through in working that opportunity to close? Again, this is just an example here. This will be configured by you. These phases are tied to your chance of success that we're going to use for forecasting later. So as he goes forward, and let's say we jump all the way up here to develop value proposition, we're going to see this 10% change down to 40%. It's a free text field, so if he wants to bump it up or bump it down, he can do that, but it is defaulted in based on that sales phase. And now we have a 40% chance of selling that, so that if he has either an expected value, what he's thinking he can get out of this customer because he doesn't know what items that they want yet, or if he has an actual item total, he's going to be able to forecast the information very easily because he has the chance of success and the value. So I'm going to have him come down here and open up the items, and so at this point in time he's going to learn what product that they want to have, and in this case it's a control regulation unit that we saw earlier. So he starts typing, I don't know if you guys saw me do that, but he started typing in CON. We have the ability of doing what's called type ahead functionality. So when he started typing in that CON, it started narrowing the list down of items based on his typing. So in this case, he sees control regulation unit. He makes that selection right off. It just makes it very quick and easy. You'll see that type ahead functionality in the account fields and in vendor fields and all in the items fields. It just makes it easy for him to make those selections. So here, pick the control regulation unit and put that into his opportunity. You'll also notice it's now updated his item total value as well. So this is the overview for the opportunity. He wants to see the detail on that, so he goes ahead and hits View All. He's got the general information that was on the main screen. He's got the item information that we just put in, and he's got this thing called Sales Activities. Now, Sales Activities are a collaboration tool within ByDesign where you can configure your company. These are just examples. Your company can configure what are the steps within each sales phase that you want your salesperson to do. So in this case, you can see some different steps that they have underneath each one of these phases. You can go ahead and choose one of these, move it over here to the sales activities, and now he's got an activity which will show up in either his inbox or somebody else's inbox as a task for them to do for the day. So we can think about all the uses for this. I know a lot of companies do things like check their customer's credit limit, their credit worthiness before they go ahead forward an opportunity. There's one person within the organization that does that. So this salesperson could be going through. They know they're at that stage to do that, so they'll add it to their sales activities. They'll make it responsible for somebody else, and maybe somebody in finance. When that finance person logs in, they're going to see the activity that they have to do for this opportunity. They don't have to go in and track it through all of the opportunities. When they perform that service and complete it, Bob will get an updated task right back in his opportunity. So it's just a real nice way of collaborating, either for the salesperson to kind of set up his own reminders within the system and or for him to collaborate across the other users. We can track the competitors within the system, involved parties, etc. So like maybe additional salespeople or distributors that you're working with. But the thing that we're going to focus on for this presentation is the fact that Bob is building that document flow. So we started with the lead. Bob is now over here at this opportunity level. So when Bob goes ahead and says, okay, that's enough information in the opportunity, you can go ahead and save that. And the button that becomes available is that follow-up button. So what does Bob want to do? He wants to follow up on that and maybe turn it into a sales quote within the system. So now he's going to have the system pull all the information in again. So again, it knows it's Silver Star Wholesale. It's got the description again that he could change. Now he's got some dates that he can put in of when it's valid. It's got the product in here already because it knew it from the sales opportunity, and now he's ready to go. So again, you can put in the additional information and track through all of the things that you want to put into a proposal, including maybe things like attachments of contracts or T's and C's and all kinds of things that they want to be able to put in the sales quote itself. Okay. Just for our time's sake, though, we're going to go ahead and just take what the system has recommended to us. We're going to go ahead and submit that into the system. So we can see that we're back to the document flow, that we had the lead, that he accepted the lead, he went to the opportunity. We're going to go ahead and refresh that screen and see that he has just now completed the sales quote for this opportunity as well. So moving forward, and again, to remind you, all of the blue links in there actually take you back to the transaction. So here's the sales quote, so you can take a look at all that information. The customer has called him and said, Bob, excellent quote. I want to go ahead and buy that product. So he's just going to go in here, do a follow-up, right onto a sales order. Again, the system knows to pull in all of that information at this point in time. But it knows. So there's the Silver Star, there's all the information, there's the items within here. So he is ready to go, and he wants to go ahead and release that order into the system. So now looking right back at the opportunity flow that we have within here, lead to the opportunity to the sales quote, refresh the screen because we're building it on real time here, all the way out to the sales order. So now Bob has built a transaction flow going through that entire process within ByDesign. So Bob was able to do that within the system itself. Now, inherently, ByDesign is a software as a service, so obviously if he's sitting at a Starbucks and he has his laptop with him, he could do that right from Starbucks, log into their wireless service. But what if he doesn't have his laptop with him? Well, we provide the mobility options for ByDesign as well. So if I scroll down to the bottom using that mashup technology, pull in all the different types of mobile devices that we support. So you'll see things on there with the iPhone and the BlackBerry. If you look at the bottom, those are supporting all of your CRM activities. So all of your the process that we just went through with Bob, account management, contacts, orders, leads, approvals, opportunities, expenses, etc., right on the iPhone and BlackBerry. If it was a distribution company and they had the warehouse where they have the Windows mobile devices in the warehouse, you can see all of the different type of tasks that we support from that, including things like inbound, outbound, replenishment, goods movements, etc. And then the reporting. Everyone loves playing with our iPads here. So we have the dashboard application within the iPad, which gives him all of the reports that he has available within ByDesign that he can have right on his iPad to take with him. Let's just go back to the main screen, see where we are within the process. So as a reminder, we'll go back down to our mashup within the system, and we can see that we've gone from kind of a day in the life, going through the reports, seeing his information, seeing his tasks that he had to do for the day, right through a process, lead, opportunity, quote, and order. Don't you guys wish it went that quickly in your business? Just in about 10 minutes, able to take a lead and turn it into an order. And then we're going to go now, and if a product is in stock, we're going to see what happens with that product, but we're going to focus mostly on when a product is not in stock. And that has to go up to this planning stage within here, just to get a flavor of what we do from that production and purchasing standpoint. So to show you this, Bob's going to go back into a sales order. And we're going to create a brand new sales order. So we talked about the type ahead functionality. We saw it on the product. But Bob's going to go ahead and start typing in Silver Star Wholesale. You notice that it recognized Silver Star very quickly. That would have recognized it off of the product or the customer ID as well. He goes ahead and picks that account. He puts in a description that this is a new sales order. An external reference, which is probably some type of purchase order number from the customer. And he's able to now put in the products down at the bottom. So just like he did before on the opportunity, he's going to start typing in, let's put that control regulation unit again. So he start typing in control regulation unit. He finds that immediately on the screen, and it comes back and it tells him that he can get a control regulation unit. A little bit too much talking here. One quantity for list price of 100. You'll also notice it came back with an ATP, or an available to promise check. It's green. That means we have enough of this in stock that if you remember from that original document flow, basically go out and do your pick, pack, and ship and deliver that product to the customer, and then he'd be available to invoice the customer once it's been delivered. But again, we're not necessarily going to go down that path today. What we are going to do is go in and take a look at another product, which is the gas boiler Combi 75. Now, when he goes to order that gas boiler Combi 75, you'll notice that the ATP check comes back yellow. So what that means is he scrolls across that little traffic light yellow yield sign that it tells him it's a late delivery, insufficient quantity. The earliest delivery date, tells him right on the screen, is 8/23, based on this is a multi-level bill of material product based on the lead times of the components required to put the product together, based on the production times required, based on any purchasing that needs to be done to actually get the raw materials to put that together. So very quickly he's able to see exactly when he can promise that to the customer. You can see that their requested date was 8/19, and he's not going to be able to make that. So you can tell the customer right away that the earliest date that they can have is that 8/23 date. But to get the process started, he's going to go ahead and submit and release that order so that the person in planning will see that there's an exception to a customer date and be able to go ahead and start running that and creating that product. So I'm going to log out, not have Bob do everything within the system. I'm going to log into the system as a different user, which is my supply planner. Now, we talked about this being a role-based system, so obviously he's not logging into the sales manager, so he doesn't want to see marketing and sales orders in his quotes. He gets to see things like his supply planning, inbound, outbound logistics, warehousing functionality within the system. So you can tell the work centers or his functional areas have changed across the top of the screen, and this is Richard Stone, the supply planner. So he's going to open up his work center for supply planning. He's going to go see if there's any exceptions that have been generated. So we know there is one because we just created that product, we just created the sales order, and we had an exception that we couldn't meet the date for that customer. So we see right there, that's that gas boiler Combi 75. We can see the exception date on the sales order. There's the sales order that we just created. I should have pointed that out earlier. The number is 1274. Trust me on that one. We'll actually go back and take a look at it. There's the sales order information as to what sales order that we just created within the system that automatically showed up over here for the supply planner to take care of as an exception. And even the absolute deviation. So not just enough to tell them it's 8/23, but you can see it's 4 days and 13 hours and all the way down to the second of when they can get this product produced and out to that customer. So let's go take a look at the details on that particular exception. So here you're seeing your typical kind of MRP or material resource planning screen. To make this easy to look at, I took everything out. So there is really one demand that we're looking at, and that in this case is a customer demand of 1, and that sales order that we just created. There is no available stock. We have no unconsumed forecast. But let me talk about this for a second, because we do have demand planning or demand forecasting within the system. So if you make products to that forecast, distribute products off of that forecast, or purchase products off of that forecast, that is available within the system to actually get picked up in this planning run as well. You can also work on things like safety stock, etc. But right now, we just have a total demand of 1 to make it easy. There's a sales order, and the reason that it showed up as yellow is because we have no supply. But you can see here very quickly that you can see that it'll take into account available stock and planned receipts in that supply quantity. So for the system to go ahead and work, he's going to do an MRP run. He's going to go up here to planning and do a multi-level bill of material run. Now again, for those people that are in this area, in this arena, and are concerned, this is not something that you're doing on a per item basis. Typically they're doing an MRP run at scheduled times throughout the day, and it'll go out and pick up all the exceptions and make that run. I'm just showing you on an individual basis so you can see it actually take place right in front of you. So in this case, you can see it very quickly came back, and it said to meet that demand quantity and give you a supply quantity of 1, it needed to do a production proposal. So it did right here with production proposal 136. So let's take a look at what that production proposal requires, because we mentioned this is a multi-level bill of material for this product. And here we can see a breakdown of all of the components of that item. So we're seeing the production proposal 136, which is putting together that gas boiler combi. that is made up of a heater, which, if you look on the left-hand side, is available. So it's ready to go, ready to put into that product. But it also takes a cylinder. Now, the cylinder also needs to be produced. So the system created another production proposal to create that cylinder, which is made up of the insulation, which is available, and an assembled cylinder, which needs to be purchased. So this is an actual combination, multi-level bill of material, multiple production proposals, and even a purchase proposal within here as well. To take a look at that graphically within the system, you can see the lead times that are required here. So here's the purchase proposal that's taken the vast majority of our time in the producing of this product. And there's purchase proposal 243 for the cylinder item. It's going to be combined with the available stock and run through the first production stage, which is really just a little 25-minute, probably push those two together. The next production proposal is then putting this available stock together with the original item, and that takes about an hour and a half, and then that product would be available and being able to deliver and then ship it to the customer and invoice the customer. So I hope that's giving you a little bit of a flavor of what we do around the planning area and the production area and even the purchasing area within ByDesign. So let me go back in as Bob. And the last thing that we're going to do, now that we've gone through the day in the life, we've taken a look at when the product was in stock, green ATP, we could deliver it, and we go off and invoice the customer. When the product was not in stock, we got the yellow ATP, or the available to promise, went through the planning, saw the multi-level bill of material, created two production orders actually, and a purchase proposal. But now we're going to go and change gears a little bit and go down the professional services side. So as we mentioned, this is a company that does both supply chain or distribution manufacturing and professional services. So now that we're back in the system as Bob, we can see that we're going to take a look at project management. Now, obviously, he can draft this down. He can go take a look at his project and see all of the time expense and time recordings, etc. within here. But to find the project that he wants to show you guys, he's going to go right up here into Enterprise Search. And he knows that project is named CP2, or Customer Project 2. So he's going to go ahead and say, all right, here's CP2. He puts it in with some asterisks just to make sure it finds all the things that are related to it, and hits enter. So what Enterprise Search is doing is exactly what it sounds like it's doing. It's actually going out into the system and going through the entire enterprise, searching for any reference to CP2. Now think about that if you're sitting at your desk and a customer calls you up and you're not writing that company record, you're not in the invoicing, but they said, I have a quick question about invoice 123. You could simply go right into Enterprise Search, type in 123, hit go, and it brings back that invoice 123 right on your screen. So in this case, you can see that it brought back that customer project CP2. He goes ahead and opens that up. Now the first thing you notice is we've got a couple private notes out here that I forgot to put in here. So let me actually say, with the concept of a private note are just like you have all over your desk right now in front of you. There are your sticky notes. There are your reminders as you go in here. Remind me to add a sticky note. So I can stick this on here, and next time that Bob comes in and takes a look at this project, he has his little reminder. He could also make this public if he wanted whoever else came in to take a look at this project to look at something. So just nice little collaboration tool. You can stick these sticky notes throughout the system to quickly view. But he's going to go ahead and click on the View All and get the details of this project. Now, if you've ever used, say, Microsoft Project or any of the project planning tools that are available on the market, this screen will be very familiar to you. So what we'll do is go ahead and expand this. It's a Gantt chart view of your project timeline. It's got all the components that you are used to seeing here, including the dates of the project tasks themselves, the dependencies of those, milestones of when things are being completed. The red color coding means these are critical path, non-float items. It's also telling you some nice things in here. If you look at the little gray bar right above my mouse right there, that's showing me that there is actual time booked against this project for this task. So when I say task, if you go over on the left-hand side, you can see a breakdown of the work structures for this project. It starts up here at a header level, so there's the diamond That is the header of the project. It's got this chevron for phases, it's circle for tasks, diamond for milestones within here. So, very easy that you can break down your project to the level of detail that you require to manage that project. Now, let me also point out, a number of our customers don't want to have that much detail, but they just want to be able to collect all of the costs and revenues associated with the work they're doing. All you would have to do is set up a one-level project, put in the project header, and that will open up all of the time management, resource management, cost collecting, and revenue collecting within that system just by opening up one level. So it gives you the flexibility of either being very detailed in your project plan or at a very high level capturing those costs of the project. If you take a look at the bottom, we'll take a look at one of these tasks that are on here and look at the bottom of the screen. We'll see that we can assign people to do the work. So there's team members that have been assigned to this project by, say, a resource manager or an overall project manager. We can see the service that they'll be performing for this particular task, how much work has been planned for them to do, how much they've actually done, and even what's remaining. You can also set up a very flexible level as to whether you want to bill for the entire project, bill for portions of the project, bill for people that are working on the project. So in this case, I have a billable tab that's all the way down here at the individual working this task, that if I had two people working and one I wanted to have billable, I could make that change in the system. So again, just very flexible. Speaking of the people, if I go over here to team and staffing, you'll see all of the team members that have been assigned out to this project, when their start and finish dates are, how much time they've been committed to work on this. You'll see that two of them, the company that we're working in here is called Almica, so you'll see that two of them are internal resources. One is a external resource, a subcontractor that has been pulled in to work on this project. You could do very nice resource management within the system that we won't get into a lot of detail on at this point, but if you wanted to go out and do a search on when people are available, on their skill sets, to make sure that you have the right people that are available to do the right jobs within the project, you can do all of that and assign these out to the team. But we're going to focus here a little bit on this subcontractor. So you have the ability within ByDesign to actually do those purchase requests and purchase orders right from the system. So project managers in here working, they realize they're going to come up short on a senior consultant to do training or whatever it might be, so they can create a purchase request right from the system, which will get sent over to purchasing, get created into that purchase order. Once it opens up the purchase order, it'll track all of the costs that are associated with that purchase order to the project. It will open up for the time management, so now you can enter the time for that subcontractor, so the cost will flow into the appropriate buckets on which tasks that they're actually working on within the system. And again, we're tracking all of that from within ByDesign, and if you look down here at the document flow, you can see the original project request as it went out from the project over to purchasing. They created that purchase order. The time was already booked against that, so you have to manage now the supplier invoice and pay that supplier for that subcontractor. Again, all managed within ByDesign. And then if you just go out here to your project overview, you get some nice reporting around the plan versus actual cost, the plan versus actual work, the detail of the cost and revenues for the project structure. So you can go into your standard report down here. But again, I'm doing the standard air quotes here, so you can now take this report and configure it with the additional attributes to be exactly what you want to look at. But here we're seeing a breakdown of the project, the plan cost, the actual revenue, and then even the margin down at the task level within that project. And then last, but certainly not least, if you click over to the sales tracking, again, seen this document flow a few times now, but here you're seeing all of the CRM activities that have led up to the contract with the customer, the project, the work that's been created, and even the multiple invoices. Because now on a project, you may be billing off of a milestone. You have multiple milestones. You may be doing time and material, but billing them on a weekly or bi-weekly or monthly basis. And you see the entire transactional flow of all of those customer invoices in one place. Whew, so let's take a little break. Bob has seen an awful lot of stuff, all pertaining to our day in the life, the lead all the way through the order, the planning, the MRP run, all the way through the project and the invoicing. So how does Bob make sure he gets his people up to speed on his product as quickly as possible? So he's got a couple things that are going to help him out and do that. One is help. So once he opens up help, this is context sensitive, so it knows that we are in the home work center, so it's going to put up the home quick guide, but it is a full searchable database of help. So in this case, he wants to say find some more information out about financial closing. So he's going to go ahead and type in closing, and it's going to go out and find all of the help resources around the financial closing aspects of the business. He may want to go take a look at what's called the closing cockpit. So for you accountants that are on the line, some real nice functionality in the closing cockpit, which it basically lays out all of the tasks that are required to close out your books at the end of a period, and those are actionable tasks. So if step 6 is to go in and do some manual journal entries to maybe do your adjustments of your accounts receivable and do some write-offs, you can actually go from the closing cockpit, go actually click on that link. It takes you right to the journal entry that needs to be created. You actually enter that information. You can go back and set that task as being completed. So it's just a real nice, not only a checklist, but a task-driven checklist within the system. So if you want to learn all about that, you're able to go into Help Resources and do a quick search. Or you can go down to what's called the Learning Center. So throughout ByDesign, you have embedded e-learning. Those learning modules are personalized based on the role of the user. So Bob, as a salesperson, is only seeing the learning modules that are associated to a salesperson. So things like account management, customer invoicing, marketing, etc. As you drill into each one of these topics, you can get more granular in the information. So under customer invoicing, Bob wants to learn about project invoicing or items to be invoiced or your recurring invoices within the system. Bob also wants to make sure that his people are getting up to speed. So you notice that as they go through and they successfully answer some assessment questions at the end of each one of these modules, that it'll highlight the learning success within ByDesign as green. So he'd be able to quickly go into a report and see all of the people that are reporting to him and make sure that they are accessing all of the learning modules and passing their assessment so that he knows they're getting up to speed within the product. So just very powerful and providing the help, providing the e-learning, providing all that information to get people up to speed on the product. And my voice is just about out, so we just have one review slide. What did we just take a look at? So if you remember, all the way back at the beginning, we talked about transparency, efficiency, adaptability as our T themes. So transparency, we get access to the information. So we saw dashboards and document flow, and we saw the reporting, slicing, and dicing, and the Excel add-in, and all of the drill back capabilities. Anytime you saw the blue link, the enterprise search, very quick to get that into the invoice 123 that's out there. Efficiency. So again, I know everyone, I said it back at the beginning, we'll let you guys determine if it looked easy to use. It's just a very, very user-friendly interface and being able to navigate around. It's very consistent. Every document basically allows you the same interface and the same way of navigating that. It's got the tasks that are built in that you can collaborate across the group. It's got the mobility functionality. If you're in Starbucks and don't have your computer but you're working on your iPhone, and then on the adaptability side, how do you get up to speed quickly? Well, first of all, you can personalize it, so you can change the terms that are on the screen to more closely reflect your information or your customers' or your way of doing your business. You can put in additional fields. It is an end-to-end solution, so you get full access to all of the components within the Learning Center, the help, all of those things make it yours and allow you to get up to speed very quickly on the product.